Hey guys, welcome to Notorious Women Podcast. I'm Lavetta.
I'm Miriam.
And this is Notorious Women, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
That's right. Hey.
Before we got on mic, we were just talking about the show, Fleischman's in Trouble. And so Miriam
I'm so impressed you remembered the name of the show. I am the worst at names of shows.
I had to look it up actually yesterday. I was telling a friend about it. So I was like,
this. Okay. So like, I'm so glad you brought it up too, because I finished it and it's like in your head and I haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that Claire Danes performance is, if you guys haven't checked it out, you need to.
If you're watching it and you're kind of in the middle and you're on the fence, I would say keep going.
Yeah.
Because like I wasn't, maybe I was like fancy. Is that a word? It is now.
Yeah.
And then you keep going for like Claire Danes, like, oh, she's so good.
So good. If she doesn't get nominated for an Emmy, I will be very, very surprised. But I guess we should get started on our Notorious Women. This week you are first, my friend.
All right, okay. You know I don't know.
Yes, who's your Notorious Woman for me this week?
So so I found somebody to talk about that is still very much alive, seemingly doing very well.
Okay. I'm scared.
No, don't be scared.
No, I'm intrigued, actually.
Yeah. I'm the one who's scared of the people you choose. Right. This woman, okay, her name is Angela Hovak Johnston. Have you heard of her?
Angela Hovak Johnston? No.
If she's listening, hey girl. Okay. She is, I think they pronounce it an Inuk woman.
Oh.
So she's Native Canadian. Is that what you would say?
Inuk.
I have no idea.
Inuk.
Wow.
I think you say it's Inuk.
Inuk. She was raised in the land of, I apologize. I'm going to do my very best to pronounce these things.
You should have looked up how to pronounce it. Did you do that?
But it's so fast. It's so fast.
It is fast.
And I'm old now, so my ears. Okay. It's the land of the Kitikmeot region of Nunavut. That's it. And she was raised there until she was sent away to school. She's and this is in Canada, so it's very north of like gorgeous area. So when she was a child, she lived in outpost camps in that region, and she was always very inspired by her culture. A quote from her: "With my parents, we would travel to Kugluktuk. All right, sorry. And I'd see this Inuk woman. She had tattoos on her face. I was always so attracted to that and thinking those are so amazing." So just so you know, I got my information from the Nunavut News, and also there was an article from the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting, and that is how I got the information I have. Okay. So Kakinit, I know that I said that wrong, but I mean, it sounds Israeli the way I say it. So,
I mean, I don't know. You sound like it sounds better than how I would say it.
I'm like, Lavetta, how do I say it? And you're like, what they are the traditional tattoos of the Inuit of the North American Arctic. The practice is done almost exclusively among women, with women exclusively tattooing other women with the tattoos for various purposes. So men could also receive tattoos, but they were often much less extensive than the tattoos a woman would receive. Facial tattoos are individually referred to as tunit, something like that. You can look at the spelling in the article, and it would mark an individual's transition to womanhood. The individual tattoos bear unique meaning to Inuit women, with each individual tattoo carrying symbolic meaning. Historically, the practice was done for aesthetic, medicinal purposes, part of the Inuit religion, and to ensure the individual access to the afterlife. So that's what those are. New information for me.
Yeah, me too.
Surprise. Christian missionaries during the 20th century.
Oh, God. Here we go.
So they persecuted the people and this practice.
What? No.
I know,
No.
right? It's shocking.
I don't believe you. That doesn't feel right.
Like, why would I lie?
Of course they did. Of course
Obviously.
they did. Yeah.
That's not something I do. Stop! All right. Okay. And it almost disappeared. And missionaries and residential schools taught that the markings were shameful, and soon the practice faded. So we've talked about this before, how, like, if you don't know, what they would do is they would take children away from their families and put them into these schools to, they used words like civilized and words like Americanized and, beat their history out of them. This is what the goal was. And they were terrible. They were terrible.
I just love it how, like, the bloodthirsty Europeans are like, you people aren't civilized. Let's take your children now.
It's really disgusting.
Away from you.
And it makes me like, was there anybody who truly believed that this was the best for them? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing is that, as an actor, like, as a performer, like, you can't believe the person you're playing. People don't believe that they're evil.
That's
right?
True.
Like,
that is, no, I know.
The mental gymnastics that colonizers have to put themselves through and then indoctrinate their children, like, no, they're savages.
That's such a level of mental gymnastics. We're going to take your children. Okay, for your
Welcome to the modern world, right? Like, people now are trying to take, people's children who are, of the Rainbow Coalition, trans children, non-binary children, and
true.
You're abusing them, and it's like, no, they're actually taking care of their children by listening to their children.
Mm-hmm.
So
which is so much better than anything else that had
Let's
ever
put them
happened.
in the system where they might get abused, raped, and molested, and, like, from their parents who are just listening to them. I love how child abuse is listening. So let me get off my soapbox, but that's a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could preach. Preach that.
Wow.
What you said.
Yeah.
Okay. So this happened. So this fact that she learned, it horrified her. And she decided that she was going to set out and change this practice. So she started with eyeliner and she practiced on herself. She would take the eyeliner and, quote, I tried different markings on my face to get the right symbol. I thought, I'm going to walk around with these to see if I'm confident enough because I know I'll get stares. I know I'll get questions. Am I ready for that? And she says, I walked around for a week before I knew I needed them permanently. So then,
wow. So she's getting in touch with her traditions.
She's getting in touch with her traditions and her culture and who she is, right? It took her 3 more years to find the right person to tattoo her permanently. So she says, quote, I always wanted an Inuk woman to do it, but there was nobody practicing that traditional tattoo method anymore, she said. And at the same time, the last Inuk woman with face tattoos had died. And so she felt, I think it was a little desperate to do it, to carry on the tradition. She wrote, quote, I thought this can't be. This is going to be a history we just read in the books again of our culture. So she researched and she spread the word far and wide. Communities, people had heard about it was done, but they had never seen it done. Then she considered the modern tattoo gun, which is what, like, you and I know, what we would see if we walked into a tattoo shop.
Right.
But she said, quote, I'd go into tattoo parlors and walk right back out. I wanted the connection. There was just something missing there. It didn't feel personal enough.
Right.
So her husband, who was a teacher, had a 17-year-old student who turned out was passionate about tattoos. The art and the application. The student had a binder filled with Inuit tattoos and Inuit stories, even though he's not Inuk. And so that's who she got to do her first tattoos. She says, that's how passionate he became. His bedroom was his tattoo parlor, and it was the most sanitary place I've ever seen. He didn't even sleep there. I had a great connection with him. He did a wonderful job. So this was...
What year is this?
this is like 2015. It just happened.
Oh, wow.
It's very recent. So the first tattoo was by the modern gun method, but she now has traditional hand-stitched and hand-poked tattoos. Hand stitching involves a thread wet with ink stitched through the skin with a sewing needle. So that sounds horrifying to me and maybe to you, but she says, it looks like the scariest, but it's the least painful. It takes the longest too. You feel the person, you feel the stitching, you feel everything. You just have so much more personal connection to each other. And hand poking involves simply poking the ink into the skin, and it's next in terms of the least pain. Tattoos in the traditional methods heal more quickly than a tattoo carved in the skin with a gun, which is noisy and the most painful.
Huh.
So 11 years after first seriously thinking about getting an Inuit tattoo, after she traced with an eyeliner pencil on her face, she organized the Inuit Tattoo Revitalization Project. The 6-day project took place in, I said this place before. I'm going to say it again. Kugluktuk. I think that was pretty good.
I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Sounds pretty good to me.
I'm trying. Thank you. In April of 2016. There, she applied her first facial tattoo with a tattoo gun and an arm tattoo, her first by the traditional stitching method, both on a woman named Millie Angulalik. So between getting her first tattoo and then learning how to apply them, she researched while raising her boys and working. That sounds hard to me. So she finally quit her job and devoted herself full-time to organizing that workshop. She says, quote, I needed to. It was time. It's so important. I've been putting it off for too long. So she put together many proposals for funding. Because she says, and I love this, I didn't want any of the women to pay. So much was taken from us. Why should we pay for something that's been taken from us? Right? Very true.
I love that. That's a word.
But the Canada came through, y'all. The Canada Council for the Arts, not just Canada. Okay, sorry. Not just the white people is what I really meant to say.
Yeah.
You heard, yeah. Ekati Dominion Diamond, Kikiak. I'm just going to say things, and maybe you know what I'm saying. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But I want to give them credit.
Yeah.
The Northern Arts and Cultural Center, Coppermine Inn, the hamlet of Kugluktuk. Okay. Super 8 Yellowknife, and the Tahikiok IBA Heritage Fund all made the project possible. And she wanted a whole group of women to participate. Now, she planned for 12 women, and 26 joined.
Wow.
I mean,
the need is out there. Yeah.
Yes. And it's so interesting to me because as like a white person born in America and very much immersed in American culture for best, even I'm Jewish, but it was still like we're American. The idea of a face tattoo is daunting. Like,
well, also because we associate it with Mike Tyson biting off somebody's ear in gangs, but you don't realize, but you realize also people who are really into tattoos understand the history of them, that they were a lot of times cultural at first. And like even the technique in which they used to do it tells you that it was a cultural marker within the society. So,
and I also like in my heart, my initial was, oh God, you're gonna mar your face, right? I'll say that. Then I look at the pictures of these women, and they're so beautiful. Yeah. They're so beautiful.
And it's different than like, again, Mike Tyson getting, I don't know what he got on his face, but like, and gang members, like they do it, for different reasons. And like, but something that's like culturally, I remember years ago, I saw The Rock. He got he was saying how like in Samoan culture, like you start to get the tattoo of your life on your body.
Oh, like Maui.
Yeah. Like, and so I was like,
from the water.
That was so when you see it and when you're looking at these things in that context, you're like, oh, and I think people who are really into tattoos, even like modern Americans, who are not, from a native tribe or any like cultural tradition that has tattoo as part of its cultural heritage, but people who are into tattoos would tell you it's very spiritual. Like people who are really, yeah.
I'm so far away from that. Like
Yeah,
I
me
grew
too.
up with such a conservative, I remember a friend was dating a guy. She didn't want to introduce him to her family. I was like, introduce him. And she's like, he has a face tattoo. And I was like, don't do that. Don't bring him home.
Yes. Yeah.
I come from a very narrow point of view when it comes to that. So it's really like kind of eye-opening to me how like.
Also, I'm just a chicken. I'm a scaredy cat, and like I'm very sensitive, but so interesting, like putting the thread through the body is less painful, but it's interesting because obviously this practice has been perfected throughout, probably thousands of years in this culture. I mean, they figured out how to make it less painful. But, again, and also, with our modern sensibilities.
When it was done, right, we didn't have an antibiotic you could get on if there was a problem.
Right.
So they knew how to do it. It's really interesting. Right. And yet we don't do that, but we could just get the antibiotic. But isn't it better to do it slower and better? Right?
Yeah, and I love it that the women would do it for each other. I think that's really interesting.
I love that it was much more than a tattoo, that it was a spiritual connection to your ancestors, both living now doing it for you and who have passed on. I think that's kind of blown my mind.
Yeah. Wow.
Clearly very narrow mind.
That's why we have this.
It's growing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So she invited two other tattoo artists, Marjorie Tabon, an Inuk tattoo artist. I might be close when I said that word. I tried. She's from Nome, Alaska, and she practiced the traditional method. And Denise Nowazelski from Yellowknife. And Johnston also. They tattooed women from 13 to 56 years of age over 6 days. They were 13 to 14-hour days.
Wow.
Crazy. It was a life-changing experience of reclaiming their heritage. So beautiful. She says, quote, "I wish everyone could experience this. It was a connection to our people, a connection to our culture, a connection to our ancestors, everything, all in one. It got everybody talking from young to old, the whole community coming together, talking and celebrating." That just makes me cry.
I know. I love that. Love, love, love that.
She said a community feast was held for the women once the project was completed. And it's so, she says this. She says, I have a lot of quotes today.
Okay.
She says, there was just so much fear, so much shame from when the missionaries came and the residential schools started. So the elders now were the young people at that time when it was being banned and frowned upon. The elders were still feeling some of those feelings. This sort of broke that, and we're being taught again to embrace it. Bringing back the tradition isn't just about women being tattooed, but also about Inuit doing the tattooing themselves. And she says, it was so bothersome to me that we didn't have anybody because we have so many talented seamstresses, so many talented Inuit women all over Canada, all over the world. I'm a seamstress. I worked with skins. I worked with hides my whole life. I wanted to learn how to do this because that would be the start of bringing it back. It's just amazing to me.
I love this. Love this.
I'm just going to keep quoting her because I love her. And she's around, so like if we could be best friends, I would be okay with that. She says, when you're
We're not cool enough, Miriam. I'm sorry to tell you.
Like, I'm so aware of that. Like, I'm like throwing it out there in the universe, but like I also know that she's better than me. And that's fine, right? That's okay. That's okay. Like, we all have our place in this world. And mine is lower. It's fine. So she says, when you're tattooing, you're not just a tattoo artist. You become a counselor. You're thinking of your ancestors. You're thinking of your family. You're thinking of your past. So much comes out during the process. And she said they had one full day to spend on the land to recharge and gather themselves up before continuing with the project. She now tattoos using the traditional way of stitching and poking, and I think she also uses the modern gun. I wonder if it's also about what the person, if the person is like, I don't want to sit here for too long. I would rather, because it really is a connection. So I wonder if that's how they choose which method to use.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
because I think it matters to the heart, like how my mother got this one, I would like the same way.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
Sense. So, and she says we want Inuit women doing Inuit women tattoos. She says it just makes so much sense for our people to be doing this for our people.
Yep.
And she's happy to, okay. So I read this articles came out in 2016 and 2017. So there might be more that I don't know. The article says that more than 80 women have received tattoos through this project and more than 50 were done by her. But I mean, there might be so much more than that at this point.
Yeah.
I hope
Hopefully.
So.
Yeah, I hope so too.
She's on Facebook. You can go to the Inuit Tattoo Revitalization Project. She also has a cool Instagram page, which I stalked. I'll say it. I stalked it. It's just really cool. She does a lot of different things that blows your mind, opens your mind. She also has a book
cooler than
out.
us.
So much cooler, Lavetta. I mean,
yes.
Listen, I watch a lot of baking shows. And I can bake some cookies. But when the recipe is like 25 minutes from start to finish and 2.5 hours have gone by and you're waiting for your first batch to come out. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. It's fine. It's a process. Okay. Meanwhile, she can hide skin from the whale and I don't actually know what animal I saw her. It was amazing. Okay.
Wow.
Her book is called Reawakening Our Ancestors' Lines, Revitalizing Inuit Traditional Tattooing. And then she said, this is another quote. It carries family identity and spiritual protection. Most of the women say that they feel whole now. They feel like themselves. They feel Inuk. It makes me crazy that women feel they aren't Inuk enough because they don't speak their language or they don't have brown skin. It's sad that there are things like this planted into someone's head. When you're Inuk, carry on your traditions. And then she says, this is very important. And for non-Inuit who find these methods and markings intriguing, she says, this was taken away from us. Let us take this back. I know non-Inuit women, even men, wanting tattoos because some of them are so appealing. Please don't do that. Please let Inuit women take this back first. I don't know why I have to say that and to clarify that, but I do know why.
I think you do. Because people are dumb and you need to say it straightforward. And even still, they'll be like, but, what can I?
No. I can look at these pictures of these women and see how beautiful they are with these tattoos. It's beautiful. But I can just appreciate that, That's
also,
fine.
There are other ways to honor a culture that you admire that you're not a part of. Maybe you can get another tattoo that is an homage to them, but not get these kinds of tattoos because they are not for you.
Or are they selling artwork you could purchase for your home?
Exactly. Oh, run them their money. Run them they money. Okay. Reparations. That's what it is.
Yeah. Keep talking.
So
forever.
Buy the goods that they're selling.
Yeah.
You want to honor a culture. I love Japanese culture. I am not Japanese. And I am also respectful. No, I'm not Japanese.
I'm just kidding. I know. I've met you. We're friends.
So we all honor cultures that, particularly when you admire a culture that's been ostracized and, been done dirty. You got to be respectful, so. And people don't always know that line. That is why she has to be this clear and say it. Because people are like, no, I know that.
I would like to. I'm going to go to my local tattoo parlor, cut out this picture I found online and say, do this to my face. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Nope.
Yeah.
She's telling you right now. That's why she has to be this clear.
Yes. And she does. And she's honestly we're going to follow her on Instagram, be awkwardly stalking her, but out of love. But she's incredible. She's incredible.
Wow. And what's her name again?
Her name is, I'm biding time because I don't want
This
to
is for our listeners.
Yes. And I got it. I'm ready. I found my
You
paper.
ready?
Angela Hovak Johnston.
Angela Hovak Johnston. Thank you so much. She is cool. Too cool for us.
Yeah.
But we'll try. We'll try.
Try.
She's
All
a lot
right.
cooler than my lady this week.
Oh, yeah. Okay, bring it.
My lady this week is
Terrifying.
not a murderess because, I love a murderess.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
A woman who likes to stab, chop, hack. Unless it's children, then I'm just disgusted. But
No, she's
unfortunately,
horrible.
there are a lot of them. But my lady is not a murderer of physical bodies, but she is a
What?
murderer of she's a bitch. Not the kind that I like.
Oh, no. 'Cause
I
I
like-
like a good bitch. No?
We like a good bitch.
She a
This
shitty
woman
bitch?
is.
Okay.
Yeah. I was inspired to do this because not only is like, how we have these terrible Karens, and Karen is not a slur, so shut your face. These terrible, in the South,
I'm
we used
sorry,
to call these
Lavetta.
kind of white women.
Lavetta, I'm
Miss
so
Ann's.
sorry. I need you to stop for just a moment and I need you to get me your manager right
Okay.
now. Right now. Because this is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. In fact, no, I need the owner. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
I mean, there's so many of them. We've always known, Black people know these women have always existed, but just because of phones, cell phones, and cameras on cell phones, now they actually are
We
getting
can
filmed.
catch them. Yeah.
We can catch them in the midst of full Karen meltdowns. But because there's so many terrible women, particularly in our Congress in America here, they're
Oh,
just
yes.
terrible women. So I was like, I want, like, the thing about these women, like some of these women now, we don't know what their lives are going to be like. We don't know if they're going to get their comeuppance or not. But it's just interesting, like, because you think karma doesn't always work the way we would like in real time or in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I'm inspired by this woman. Also, is part of Hollywood. We're performers. We're in the industry. And so it's just, a lot of people have heard this name, but they may not know who this woman is. So my notorious woman this week is Hedda Hopper.
Hedda Hopper.
Hedda Hopper. When I get into
I like it. I want to say all the H words now.
I know. And that was not on
Hi,
purpose. So
Hedda Hopper. How are you? Okay, I'll stop.
it's kind of like,
Hopper.
and how do you feel Hedda be Hampshire?
I was going to say, this feels like a warm up before the
know.
theater. Hedda Hopper,
sounds
Hedda
like-
Hopper hopped.
It sounds like My Fair Lady. It Hedda Hampshire. Hedda. Anyway.
That was really good. I'm not going to repeat it because I can't do it as well. That was really good. Okay, go on.
I'm such a nerd. So,
Yes.
So Hedda Hopper was born Elda Fury. That's
Oh
her.
my God.
Elda.
I feel like you just yelled at me. Okay.
Elda Fury to
Okay.
a Pennsylvania Dutch family. They spoke
Okay.
German
Okay.
on May 2nd, 1885 in Hollingsburg, Pennsylvania to Margaret Miller and David Fury, a butcher. So she came from a very humble family.
Yeah.
She's a country girl. This is what we do. This is a country farm girl. She was one of 7 children.
Whew.
Yeah.
It's a lot of babies. It's a lot of yeast infections. I'm just, that's a lot of pregnancy. That
I
just
can't.
feels like,
Now-
no, a kitchen would be closed. Okay.
What women used to do back then, I just can't.
Yeah,
So when she
for
was
real.
3, though, the family moved to Altoona, nearby, a town nearby where she stayed for the rest of her life. Now, when she was about 16, like a lot of young women, like a lot of people who are from like small towns, it is nothing to do there. You just like, I want to get the hell out of here. So when she was 16, she ran. It says she ran away, but she probably just moved because at 16, so she would have been, this would have been 1901.
Oh, so she was a grown
1901.
up.
She's
16-year-olds were grown ups back then.
Back then. She went to New York City and began her career in the chorus as a chorus girl on the Broadway stage.
Okay.
But she was eventually axed by the renowned Schubert brothers.
Oh, I know that theater.
I got the feeling that she wasn't very good at it, because I would imagine growing up in Altoona that there wasn't a lot of opportunities to get proper dance training, musical
But can we talk
training.
about the difference between getting on Broadway then and getting on Broadway now? Because you're not like, oh, not a great dancer, but welcome to Broadway. Like, that does not happen.
No,
I know, because Broadway said no thank you to me. I'm just, except for the thank you part. They just said no.
Yeah, this was at a time, 1900 is where, like, they're still trying to figure out the institution of, like, you always had like vaudeville and chitlin circus or whatever. Like, that was always a thing. But Broadway this is where Broadway is trying to be codified into like a stationary place where you go to the theaters and watch like amazing acts.
Which
like,
is why
right? So,
bad dancer Hedda got fired. But
so she got
was
fired.
Hired. Yeah. Okay.
But exactly, she was hired. And then now Florenz Ziegfeld. So we know that Ziegfeld name. He had the very famous the Ziegfeld girls. Now these were girls who could dance, who were beautiful, and they put on sort of like I guess it's the American equivalent of like a Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, like the
without
feathers.
the top nudities, but like but really beautiful girls dancing in their legs and stuff. And he had what he called the Ziegfeld Follies. So she tried out for that. She was just trying to get work. She's a young girl. So by virtue of being a young white girl this time, she could at least get an audition, right? And it was different. Like, auditions are a lot more open than they are in the modern world. So, but Florence
I don't think
Ziegfeld,
Actors Equity was even there yet. Yeah.
No, it hadn't been created yet. And so, but even Ziegfeld referred to her as a clumsy cow. Which is so mean. But
I wouldn't mind being a clumsy cow on Broadway. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. So she appealed to him to be in his famous Follies, and he's like, no. So after a few years of banding about, like just trying to get her literal foot on a stage, she was lucky enough to be able to join the chorus line in a theater company of matinee idol at the time, DeWolf Hopper.
Okay.
And toured the country. So probably in that time, she managed to get some proper dance training. You have to get your look together. Because I would imagine she's a country girl. She got, you got to get your hair. You're competing against girls who have probably family members who know how to help them groom and look the part, as well as be able to do the thing. So
none of which she could do. Okay.
None of which she could do. So she landed in a company, which is, landing in a touring company is a big deal. Like, that's steady work. So you're very happy to get in that. But so while they were touring around the country, she quickly realized that just being in the chorus and doing understudy jobs that's not gonna cut it. Like, that's not real acting. And she wanted to act.
Okay.
Usually you got into those things because that's a opening, and then you get in, then you work your way up. But again, I think Hedda, again, she didn't have the proper training. Like, she's competing against girls who probably have been training since they were like 5, been working. But while she was on tour, again, she realized this wasn't really acting. But she knew she had to kind of prove herself. So she had to break out in some way. So she heard that Edgar Samhain was casting his play, The Country Boy, for a road tour. So she went to his office. And this is the days where you could go into the actual producer's office.
I've seen those movies where they knock on the door and they say, look at my breasts. Can I be in your show? And they say yes.
So she went to him and she begged to be given an audition, and she actually won the lead.
Wow. Okay.
So she definitely had improved. Okay. And she was given the role, and not to say that just because you don't get the role, it doesn't mean you weren't good, because we all know a lot of other things go into that, particularly at this time, a lot of stuff. But she was given a lead in the Country Boy tour, and So she went on tour for about 35 weeks throughout 48 states. So this was a
Wow.
national tour. This is a big deal for people who are not in the industry. Even today, a national
That's
tour is a
huge,
big
yeah.
deal. Yeah. During that, so then she studied singing during the summer, and in the fall, she toured with another show, The Quaker Girl, as a second lead.
Oh. Wow.
I wonder if like the Quaker, you know, leads are landing a lead is a big deal even today. So, but this is good. You know, if you've been struggling and you got kicked off of just being a chorus girl,
Listen, I'm just jealous. I'm just jealous.
I know.
That's fine.
so she's making her way, you know. Now when she wasn't on tour, she and DeWolf lived at the Algonquin Hotel in Manhattan.
Of course they did.
DeWolf
I lived there too. Go on.
DeWolf obviously has money, and Elda, still Elda,
Oh yeah.
is his girl. So they're living, you know. But one thing I will say about Elda / Hedda, even though being in a relationship with him, it brought her into the company of the likes of John Barrymore, Douglas Fairbanks, and Tallulah Bankhead. Now these are big names. These are like elite like actors. This is the creme de la creme. And she was able to get, you know, in these rooms, in the room where it happened, as it were.
In the room where it happened. The room where it happened.
Because of DeWolf being his woman. So
Whatever happened to the name DeWolf? Like,
I know. DeWolf.
why don't we name our
DeWinter.
sons DeWolf now? Yeah.
Very like, I wonder. Now in 1913, she became the fifth wife of DeWolf, whose previous wives were named Ella, Ida, Edna, and Nella.
Stop.
So-
You're making this up. Come on. You can't write this shit. Oh my God.
The similarities in the name. So as you can imagine, DeWolf is older than her.
I figured that.
But also, dude, you married women whose names sound alike. So he would often, by mistake, call Elda by one of his previous wives.
By so many other options that are just so much alike.
Which pissed her off, understandably so.
Yeah, I'd be angry.
So this led her to, reportedly pay a numerologist $10 to see what her name, because she was going to change her name.
Yeah.
And the numerologist came up with Hedda, you know, Hedda Hopper.
Hedda
So that's a
Hopper.
very,
Here we are.
it sounds like, and this is before Hollywood became like, this is definitely before the golden age of Hollywood. But when they would do this, they would change your name because your name just didn't sound great. So as Wolfie's wife, people called him Wolfie, she would hover around the fringes of these, like, you know, the Douglas Fairbanks, John Barrymore, Tallulah Bankhead, like these like bona fide stars, acting stars. But she really wanted to sort of get her way in there. And she even once said, she recalled once, quote, "I was pitchforked right in amongst them," end quote. And also she a country girl, like in this fabulous Manhattan, like she's just trying to like live up to this kind of thing. She ran away for a reason. She ran to New York for a reason.
She was like, I'm not you, I am them.
Yeah. And so even though Wolfie reportedly habitually taunted, cheated on her, and simply ignored her, he's a terrible husband, which is why she's his fifth wife.
I mean, color me surprised. I mean,
it's just like, yeah. And apparently he has money. So guys like that, even today, feel like they can just treat you any kind of way. But she realized that she had married up. And she's a smart woman. Even if she was a country bumpkin, she was smart to realize that she had married up. So, but in 1915, she gave birth to her son, William. So they had a baby.
okay.
Now recuperating, after the birth, she, decided I'm going to really go for it. And she wanted to do movies. Cause again, Hollywood hasn't really, cause Birth of a Nation, that fucking movie came out in 1915, which
did.
kind of like, made Hollywood a thing. And that's in Hollywood. But so in 1915, the industry, Hollywood, quote unquote, hadn't really been a thing. Movies they were starting to like become a thing in this time. And she had struggled with stage work. So obviously she's like, okay, well, let me shoot for the movies. It just so happens the following year, DeWolf, Wolfie, was offered a lucrative contract from the Triangle Film Company.
Okay.
Yeah. And he at first wanted her to give up her acting career completely because I want you to be home.
I could see that
suffering.
about him. That feels right. Yeah.
I want you to be home, Ella. Oh, I mean, Hedda.
Ida. I mean, who? Huh?
I want you home waiting on me doing nothing but cooking and cleaning or at least telling the maid where to cook and clean.
Listen,
while
martinis
I'm off.
don't make themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so
makes sense.
They had probably been fighting about this for a while. He wanted her to give up her acting career completely, but, she hadn't really made her mark. So she's like, no. So once this contract came through, she actually persuaded him to let her take the female lead in the film, in his first film called The Battle of Hearts. Okay. Actually, this was another project, not his project, called The Battle of Hearts with a man named William Farnham. And this was her first film. Now, talk about privilege. So this is her first film. Yeah. And she made, back then, actors got paid by the week, which they kind of do now. Now, actually, stars, or if you're the lead, you get like a set fee, and then they kind of break it down. But back then, your salary was like such and such a week, such and such a week. That's how they paid you.
Right.
She made $100 a week, which is $1,900 by today's standard a week.
Wow. Is it because she's so talented and earned it? I'm just asking for
I mean, I also think this is why she is like, it's by marriage. Like, she has these opportunities, because certainly if she was still beating the pavement as a struggling actress, she may not even have gotten an audition for this.
Right. Totally.
Now, the reviews for this film were meh.
Okay. All right.
And her acting in general, people were like, meh.
Maybe that's why maybe he was trying to help her. It's like, baby, you're not good.
Maybe. But I will say also, you get better by doing it.
That's true. That's true.
So her second film was called The Virtuous Wives in 1918, where she actually made a splash.
Oh.
And it's because she realized that she finally found her lane, like her type. Like, what is she good at playing?
Yeah.
And her lane was playing society women and being a bitch.
Okay. Go with your gut. I like it.
She landed on her brand, as it were.
Yeah, there you
go.
Now,
she got the reputation for being a bitch from the start, but later it was reported because she would often decide to upstage the lead actress.
Yeah. I know.
And in this particular film, she did it to the lead, an actress by the name of Anita Stewart, by spending all of her $5,000 salary. So that's how much she was going to make on, this is what Hedda did, on her lavish wardrobe, to play. So she's playing this high society lady. So she didn't go to wardrobe. She bought all her own stuff. So she'd always, which that actually works. Like, if you show up looking great, I don't know if you've seen Glass Onion, but
I have seen Glass Onion.
Janelle Monáe's outfits are just
my God, right?
Like, everyone's outfit, but especially hers and Daniel Craig's outfits are just like, they steal the show. They're a different character.
No, like when she was walking and something was happening, and I was like, I just have to say that I love her dress. Let us keep finding out what happens.
And she's
in this
so
movie.
Gorgeous. Janelle Monáe, it's distractingly
beautiful. Listen, she does this great song on Sesame Street, and I will always love her for that song, and I will always think of her for that song.
I love Janelle Monáe.
It's about trying really hard. I love her. God.
Me too. So Hedda upstaged she tried to upstage the actress, and it kind of worked. It got her some attention, and people were like, who is that? And by this time, the film came out, was 1920.
Okay.
By 1920, she was now commanding $1,000 a week as a free agent in New York, which was $1,900 a week. Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say before?
The other was
I think $100. No, 19,000. Yeah. So
Whoa.
$100 was 1,900. So she's making now 19,000 by today's money a week.
Oh, that's not bad. I could handle that. I would know what to do. I wouldn't
Now-
though. I would like travel and like buy shit. Okay,
You
go
know,
on.
Hedda was spending all that money because again, she's married, so her husband's
Well,
making
she's
money
married to
too.
a rich man, so she can do what she wants. Yeah.
But by 1922, she and Wolfie were divorced. But when you marry a rich man, alimony is good.
Yeah, it is. That's
It's
true.
good.
Not gonna lie.
So, in 1923, she moved to Hollywood. She moved out here to LA and became a contract player for Louis B. Mayer at MGM. Now that's big
Okay.
time.
Yeah,
That's big time. She went on to appear in more than 120 films.
Wow. Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Again, this is still the silent era, so they would do a lot more films. They would crank out films. This is the heyday of Hollywood. They would crank out films like once a week. Like they were doing it.
that's
But 120,
That's
that's
a lot.
pretty impressive. That's a real career, acting career. But in the mid 30s, her career started to struggle. She's getting older.
She turned 26. My God, what is she still
I
doing?
know, right? And her steady income started to, wane a little bit. So she was looking for other ways to make money. Because also at this time, she's accustomed to living a certain lifestyle.
I understand.
Yeah.
I don't though, but I want to be.
I
Go on.
know.
Right?
In 1935, she agreed to write a weekly Hollywood gossip column for the Washington Herald at $50 a week, which is equivalent to $1,000 today.
Is anyone looking for someone else to write a gossip column? Because I'll take the 1,000. I mean,
Now, I will
probably
say
just make shit up, but go on. Yeah.
she was used to making $1,900 a week, and now she's making $50. So,
Annoying.
I know. But she refused. So it lasted for about 4 months, and then they were going to cancel it. They actually canceled it because she refused to take a pay cut of $15, which would be $300.
Oh.
So that's a lot of money, though.
Yeah.
If you're making 1,000 and they're like, now you want to make 700 for the same amount of work, that's a big cut.
That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, 2 years later, though, she was in 1937, she was offered another gossip column because that one was actually successful. But this one was for the Los Angeles Times.
Oh, okay.
And her column was entitled Hedda Hopper's Hollywood.
Okay.
Hedda Hopper's Hollywood.
Sounds
That name
good.
change is great. Yeah. Now, which debuted on St. Valentine's Day, 1938. Now, this is white privilege for your ass. Hedda was a country farm girl who had snagged a rich husband back in New York, got into the upper echelons of society as a result of it, got an acting career, then comes out to Hollywood and, she works. But then Hedda got this column, and I wonder if that's why they wanted her to take a pay cut before at the other place. She couldn't type or spell very well.
Oh, girl. Okay. All right.
So she would dictate her column to a typist over the phone. This is some white privilege for your ass.
That is the definition in the dictionary of what is white privilege. It's Hedda Hopper
Yeah.
and her on the phone dictating because she can't even writing
type.
for a column.
And I would say that for a young woman who was not born into wealth, not to know how to type is really unusual for back then.
I'm wondering, with all of the money that she was making, like all of that money, was there no class she could have taken?
No,
not like one, not one.
Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm a rich lady, bitches. I'm rich.
Sorry, my bad.
Now at the time, Luella Parsons is another gossip columnist who predated Hedda.
Oh, okay.
Luella was actually the queen of it, and one day we'll do a story on her as well. She was actually the queen of gossip columns in Hollywood. Like, she was the one that was known, even though there are plenty of black women doing it or other people doing it. But she became, and some white men, but she was like the queen of this kind of thing.
Okay.
But she had been doing it for a while, so she was older than Hedda. So Hedda's like the new young chippy that's coming in, and she
Fresh
possibly got this job, as for the newspaper as a counter person to Luella Parsons. Because Luella had a monopoly on the Hollywood gossip list. But Hedda, because of her acting experience, used her extensive, relationships and contacts that she had forged during her acting days to gather materials for her column. So she knew a lot of people. So they would talk to her and she could get the scoop on stuff.
Yeah. Now did Luella work for the Los Angeles Times or no?
No, she worked for, who's the guy that Rosebud
Orson Welles.
After? But Orson Welles that story is based on, what's his name? Luella worked for him, basically.
Okay.
And one of his papers. So, and now I know somebody's yelling at us and we're supposed to be in Hollywood. We should know this. Hearst? Yeah. Is it Hearst?
Hearst. It's Hearst. It is Hearst. Yes.
So, William Randolph Hearst. So Luella worked for him. And so basically, so Hedda, though, again, she had a lot of contacts so people could talk to her because of her acting career, because she did have a successful acting career. I don't care what people say, like that's successful. Now her first major scoop on a national level was in 1939. She printed that President Franklin Roosevelt's son, James Roosevelt, was divorcing his wife, Betsy, after being caught in an affair with the nurse at the Mayo Clinic.
Wow.
So that's a juicy
Dang.
story.
Okay.
Yeah. So now part of her public image was, so again, this is a woman that comes from acting. She knows how to play the part. She knows, and that also is what eventually will give her an edge on Luella, who didn't come from performing.
Oh, okay.
But who could probably type.
As a writer of a newspaper column,
there's that.
That feels like a necessary skill, but that's just me, obviously. Okay.
But Hedda knew how to to reinvent herself and create an image. She understood the importance of that. So she was known for for wearing very extravagant hats. Oh. So much so that the IRS gave her an annual tax credit of $5,000, which would be $100,000 today.
What?
For her hats as a work expense.
Oh my God.
I mean, technically, it would be. She could write it off.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Go on. That's fine.
And
must be nice. Go on.
I know. White privilege. She was so synonymous with these weird looking hats that during World War II, the Nazis used photographs of her in these extravagant hats for propaganda as symbols of American decadence.
Oh my God. You guys, see, this is why we can't have nice things. Because Hitler's going to use you for propaganda. Holy shit.
Use you for propaganda.
Jesus. I'm just, what? Okay.
I know. So now her annual salary was about $250,000, $5 million by today's standards.
I can't even breathe.
For gossiping.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But you know what the truth is? I keep joking that I want that job, but I could not do that job. Like the reality is I'd be like, oh no, I won't tell anybody. And then where's my money? It's nowhere because I wrote nothing down.
Also because like you do, like now we have PR firms and publicists are very, very important. And these ladies actually predated publicists and PR firms, because they were kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? They were, informal PR machines. If you wanted to get good PR, you would be nice. You would kiss up to them. So
I see.
They're the ones, the way they operated in this time and lasted for decades, is kind of like led to the rise of the current of the modern PR firm in the publicist.
I lied. I could totally do that. Okay. Yeah. I'm back to making $5 million a year. Go on.
Yeah. So, okay. Which this $5 million a year enabled her to live an extravagant lifestyle and maintain a mansion in Beverly Hills, which she described as, quote, the house that fear built, end quote.
Oh, she sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I just want to take a moment here again to state you can't overstate how powerful Hedda and Luella were.
Okay.
They ruled Hollywood. Even the studio heads were afraid of them.
Wow.
Because they would plant, if they, let's say the studio heads, whenever they had a new starlet or star hunk that they wanted to promote, they would set them up with an interview with Luella or Hedda, and with the hopes that they would give them good press. And that's what makes a star. Like, they could really make you a star.
Right. But they could also fuck you up.
They could also fuck you up, and they could give you your project, your movie, bad press. The only thing that made this bearable is that both Luella and Hedda hated each other, so the people could play off of them. But it kind of reminds me of like stan culture on Twitter. So Luella stans hated Hedda stans. So if you were a star and one of them liked you, the other one really didn't like you, so they would just ignore you. Yeah. You
couldn't really win.
Yeah, you couldn't. I mean, you would try as a star. Your whole thing is to be at least cordial and not, get one of them mad at you. But I think that's the only thing that made this tenable for people in Hollywood, is that they hated each other. So they were kind of fighting, and that kind of kept you, if you were smart, to kind of navigate that kind of thing. But again, a mention in one of their columns was like gold to studio heads, publicists, and there were publicists, but they didn't have the kind of power that Luella and Hedda had. So they had because together they commanded 75 million readers and newspapers and radio listeners.
Wow.
At the time, that's half the country.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And even while she was doing her column, Hedda continued to act. Beginning in 1939, she had an acting role in a radio soap opera, playing Portia Brent on the Blue Network's Brent House.
Okay.
Later that same year, she debuted her own radio program called The Hedda Hopper Show, sponsored by Sunkist. And it was heard on CBS radio 3 times a week for 15 minutes until 1942.
Was it an acting show, or was it
No. It's her gossip column kind of thing. It kind of reminds me of is it Cindy Adams from like the 90s, Cindy Adams, and or the lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Yes.
Was it Champagne Dreams? Caviar Dreams and Champagne Wishes. Yeah.
Champagne Wishes and Caviar Dreams. Mine was also a terrible accent.
Yes, terrible. Really but it's that kind of thing. Again, these ladies were the precursor to those modern iterations of this.
You know what? I would have loved it. Loved it. I watched What's His Face all the time.
Yeah.
And I was I'm going to have a mention one day, but I didn't. That did not happen.
And this is, again, people are like, ooh, the fancy, what are my favorite Hollywood star doing? Right. It's just all this stuff around it. And so
I want to pretend that I'm better. I would not listen to that, and I would not read that, but that would be such a lie. I would 100% follow it, listen to it, be like, oh my God, you like that? That is me. Know yourself.
You'd be eating it up. I would too.
100%.
She had several, these radio programs were very successful. She then moved on to ABC, and then she moved back to CBS, and we won't go into it, but she had she was very, very successful. In 1946, her weekly 15-minute program was called This Is Hollywood, and it was sponsored by Procter & Gamble, which ran until 1947. Again, all of this, she's making money from the column. She's making money from the radio program. She is making money. Now, I've already kind of hinted at this, but I won't beat around the bush. This woman's a bitch. This woman's terrible. She's a bully. Not a bitch, because we like bitches. She's a bully.
We do like bitches. We don't like bullies. Yeah.
Yeah. She was hated but respected and feared. She wielded a lot of power to either build you up or break you down. She was besties with Joan Crawford, whose career suffered in the early 1940s after she was labeled box office poison. But in 1945, when Hedda reprinted a press release for Mildred Pierce in her column, and it described Crawford as a leading contender for the Best Actress nomination, she was credited, Hedda, with swinging the decision in Crawford's favor when she won the award.
Okay. Damn, she has power. Yeah. Okay.
So she was doing this sort of, it kind of started that whole thing of like lobbying the Academy for the Oscar race. It kind of kicked all that off.
I was just thinking that it's like that I always thought it was like, oh, people watched your movies and they decided that is so much more.
You have to campaign for it. And it started kind of with this thing that Hedda did for Joan Crawford.
Okay.
Now, though lucrative, her job caused a lot of enemies. And she's just a nasty person, too. Though she had a very glamorous image, like you said, this is hard work. It's kind of seedy and dirty, and because you're spreading rumors about people.
Yeah.
Like there's secrets that are private. You know, it's. I don't think you can do this job without getting some dirt on you, because I think that's just the nature of the job. But I also think she reveled in being dirty and nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting that.
Actress Zazu Pitts compared Hopper to a ferret.
Shit.
And once Joan Bennett sent Hopper a $435 Valentine, and the $35 went for to buy a skunk that carried a note which had on it, "Won't you be my Valentine? Nobody else will. I stink and so do you." End quote. This is what the actress said.
Damn.
But Hedda, again, reveling in this, said, without missing a beat, she reportedly commented that the skunk, quote, "was beautifully behaved," end quote. And then she later gave the skunk to James Mason and his wife as a present.
What? What? Well, I don't even know what you just said. What? Wow. Okay.
She took it in stride. Now, in 1950, her show on NBC was expanded beyond 30 minutes and became a variety series called The Hedda Hopper Show, and it ran into 1952. Now, and again, the inspiration for telling you guys about Hedda this week is from like these Marjorie Taylor Greens, these Lauren Bro, like these women who are just awful and loud and wrong. And I was like, this is like the Hedda Hopper, like, is like the poster child for that kind of thing. Just loud and wrong and but with a big, unlike these ladies so far, people knew she was kind of full of it, but she had a lot of power. She had a large reach.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very similar situation. Like the whole like making shit up, like same thing, making shit up to get on a headline.
Yeah. Okay. Or like a lot, like I know bloggers, some are, there's one thing about like legitimate, like entertainment that we all kind of know, like the public's in on it nowadays, but some bloggers are just nasty and they do it for the clicks. They put up
because they make more money.
So she was like the original and she was actually considered nastier than Luella. Luella was considered more of a journalist who kind of she was a little bit nicer. And Luella actually would play, when we get into her, I'll do her one day. She's like, she kind of did like a ditzy kind of thing. And so Hedda, in comparison, was known as the nastier one, I think. But everyone was afraid of both of them. But Hedda was considered the nastier one. Now, again, this is a farm girl from Podunk, as we would say here in the States, nowhere, right? Who goes to New York, marries, becomes a Hollywood actress. Like, she's living the dream, but she's also just personally just a nasty person. So she was a snob.
She is climbing a ladder. She's just spent her whole 16 ran away, found the first rung, and just kept, but never looked down. Never looked down.
And
up and
I
up
also
she
think,
goes.
And you know how they say that success doesn't change you; it just exemplifies it highlights who you already are. I think that's Because not only was she a snob, she was a racist. What? Shocked.
No. I thought we got rid of that.
In 1958, while interviewing Sidney Poitier, she asked if he could sing.
Okay.
Because, quote, so many of your people do, end quote.
Wow.
And when he replied, no, he could not, she replied, quote, you're the first one I've ever met who says he can't sing. I've never known any of your people who couldn't sing, end quote.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What did Sydney do? I like to imagine
just be black and be in the same space as her.
I mean, I just imagine like he'd just stand up, turn around, and walk out the room. Like that's what. But
again, you can't. Sure. Like you can't ignore this woman because she has so much power, right? Like
so he had to
this
be
is like yeah. Like I would imagine, like Sidney Poitier is the height of like black excellence at this time. He's like, it's probably the year he was nominated, like for his Academy Award. Like, and she's that white person that comes up to you and is like, can you sing? Can you do some tap dancing?
If you could just entertain me, like
I know you can. Speak in Ebonics. It's like, woman, and he's probably just trying to laugh it off.
I know.
And then she's just like, yeah.
I don't understand. You're the first.
Yeah.
That's not real. Oh my God, girl. You're the first.
She's the
That's because you've talked
Karen.
to 2 black people, and this is the second. I cannot.
Now,
okay.
What also makes her, if that's not bad enough, she then what's probably the thing that makes her most notorious, other than being like, because up until this point, she's just like a gossipy, bitchy gossip columnist, right? Even though I think that that's kind of like a sexist connotation, because I think society resented these women for having this kind of power, even though she wielded it very like in a very nasty way.
Yeah.
But she really is notorious for her activities during World War II.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
So,
yep, let's do this. Go,
during
girl.
World War II, her only child, William, he served in the Navy.
For what side? For what side?
No, he's American. He's an American.
Okay. I don't know how far we're going off a cliff here. Go on.
No, but she chastised Douglas Fairbanks Jr., whose father she knew,
right?
Because she thought that he was shirking his duty to the country when he enlisted, but she just was just after him. Like,
why?
Like, she didn't feel like he was patriotic enough. So you know where I'm going.
Okay, yeah, I do. Go on.
He's not patriotic enough. Not like her son, William.
No, of course not.
Now, Fairbanks Jr. recalled in his memoirs, Salad Days, that he was already in uniform serving in the British Royal Navy and despised Hopper for her insinuations. And so he was serving on the same side, right?
Yeah,
even
the
though it's
Allied
the
were like a couple of different countries.
But she's one of these people that she was an isolationist. She was just one of those people who before the war, she didn't think America should get involved. And then after we got involved, then you're not patriotic enough. Now, side note, her son, William, he would survive. He would later go on to play Bill Drake in the Perry Mason series.
Oh, okay.
Some random side note. So I'm just going to say it. She was a right winger. I mean, are you shocked?
No, I'm not shocked. I mean, I'm the normal sad that I always get when we come to this point and we find out about this from this.
If she were alive today, this bitch would run for office.
This bitch would be in Congress right now.
Yep. So not only was she like, a staunch like isolationist, America first, she also strongly supported the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Of course she did. Of course.
HUAC.
Like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Hedda Hopper would be like the 3 besties.
Yeah.
They would be like, girl, you look so white and thin today. Thank you, girl. So do you. Yay. Yeah. I saw someone with a tan. Ew, gross. I know, right? I think they're Jewish or black or something. Run! That's what would be today.
And for those of you who don't know, the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, were the committee responsible for the Hollywood blacklist that ruined a ton of people's careers.
Yeah.
And so she was in with them. Those were her besties.
Yeah.
As a lot of people in Hollywood were as Ronald Reagan was. And what's his name? John Wayne.
He was gay, by the way. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, but these people. So I think he would say he was bisexual. Actually,
my point is that he should not be pointing fingers.
Yeah. Yes, but
y'all, okay.
So HUAC, they had 35 million strong readership. She had a 35 million strong readership, and she used it to basically be her column to be the mouthpiece for HUAC.
Ugh, and basically disgusting, and I hate
they
her.
will go around and accuse people of being communists, which is so ironic because these people love Putin nowadays. But I just think this is ironic.
Like big Putin fans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just like,
make America great again. Also, go Putin.
Yeah. But these people, so they would use they were trying to root out communism, and they thought anybody or people with communist sympathies, and they thought anybody who may be gay, queer, who were for civil rights, who were for,
I was going to say any liberal tendency would get you into the courthouse for a trial. Yeah.
Will get you accused of, and then once you were accused of them, you couldn't ignore them. You had to be brought in to testify and then name names. They were just a nasty, nasty bunch. This is disgusting. This is the blacklist. This is the Red Scare, led by McCarthy. All of the stuff you can think about. They made a wonderful movie about called Trumbo, and one of her famous victims was Dalton Trumbo, who she had a vendetta out for him. She consistently gave him negative coverage because he was a card member of the Communist Party, which this Communist Party sympathizers believed in equal rights.
I mean,
that's the liberal kind of
thing
stuff.
That I really feel like has not been told. Like, I learned about HUAC in school, and and then you think well, I wouldn't be called up because I'm not a communist. No. Their definition of communism was anything that pushed for any sort of equal rights, equal fairness in wages and living standards, any environmental support. I mean, that wasn't so big then, but anything that civil rights, as you said,
social programs,
social progress.
Yep.
Social progress was considered communist.
Yep.
Motherfuckers. Okay, go on.
She also hated Charlie Chaplin, who was British. I don't know if a lot of people know that Charlie Chaplin was British. And she hounded him. I mean, he did have some problematic issues with younger women.
Yeah, he wasn't feminist.
He wasn't perfect, but you don't have to be perfect to be a victim.
Exactly.
And also, she hated that he wouldn't recuse his British citizenship. Because she considered it an act of ingratitude towards a country which had given him so much.
She's such a bitch.
Why you in this man business? Why business? And I said business. Why are you in Charlie Chaplin's business? Okay.
Walk away. Let him fall off the train in 500 different funny ways. Okay?
Yeah, I know, right? Those Charlie Chaplin movies are really great,
they're so good. Get some popcorn, sit down, shut the fuck up. What's the problem?
They're so good. And also, America, he made a lot of money, but I'm sure Charlie Chaplin made American businessmen a lot of money in Hollywood. I'm just saying.
You can probably guarantee it.
Yeah. Okay. She also, now, if you got on her bad side, she would turn on you. So Ingrid Bergman, which is one of my favorites. I love Ingrid Bergman. She initially, Hedda loved her, gave her positive coverage. She just loved her. She was one of her fans.
Okay.
And she supported the actress in her column throughout the 1940s. But she became enraged when Bergman lied to her about being pregnant in an interview they had with married director Roberto Rossellini.
Okay.
While she was still married to another man. So it was a scandal.
But, like,
it was a big,
why would you tell
scandal.
the person who writes everything down a secret?
That ain't none of your business, Hedda.
Turn around, get out of the room, walk away. Okay.
This woman, but I mean, it's part of her job, but also because she felt like Ingrid had betrayed her by not being honest with her and giving her the scoop. And it's like, well, right. Ingrid also is still married to another man. Obviously, something's gonna, like, why are you in her business? Why are you in her business?
You know what, bitch? It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
It's not about you.
Yeah, she doesn't believe
but the thing about her that it kind of enrages me about her is that for all her awfulness and just being part of HUAC and being racist and just being like a terrible, terrible Karen, she never really saw the consequences of her actions. She won in the end. I mean, she got her feelings hurt occasionally. No
one can see my eye roll, but it was very massive. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, once someone told her that because of all her like extreme conservatism in Hollywood, people privately called her a Nazi. And she wrote, and she said, apparently she cried and replied, quote, Jay, all I've ever tried to be was a good American, end quote. Screenwriter Jay Bernstein told her that. Like, but it's like, but you're acting like a Nazi.
Those white tears require so much support. I mean, those white tears are getting everywhere. It's so sad. Like, where's my tiny violin? I can't even find it.
Miriam took out the tiny violin before I could take it out. In your mansion in Beverly Hills. I mean, if you don't want people to call you a Nazi, stop acting like a fucking Nazi. Like, you know. So
can I quote you on that? Because that's a good one.
Yeah, stop acting like a Nazi.
That's a very like that problem solves a lot, actually. If you don't want everyone to think you're a Nazi, stop acting like a fucking Nazi.
Stop acting like a Nazi.
Yeah.
And the fact that she used the whole blacklist debacle and the fear surrounding all of that, I think people can't, I hope our audiences, check out You Must Remember This by Karina Longworth podcast. It's excellent podcast.
Great podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, Karina is a Hollywood historian, and she really puts the blacklist thing in perspective. Like, I think it's hard for us in our modern world view to understand how this destroyed people's lives. And Hedda basically used it to ruin the lives of her, quote, enemies.
Yeah. And that the thing that gets me too, which I think that's why it's so important, is that people have no sympathy for Hollywood stars, right? Because they have millionaire, there's so many different millions of forms of income and blah, 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 blah. No. They lost everything. They lost everything. The
blacklist destroyed a lot of people's lives who were just trying to like be decent people or just didn't have terrible racist views, and they were being punished for it.
Yeah.
You know, and again, nothing is clear cut in any case, but everyone can acknowledge that the blacklist was used. It was a witch hunt. When people say witch hunt, it's a witch hunt. It really was. And so despite like being a troll, she lived her best life. She went on to continue acting throughout her life. She wrote best-selling books. Her autobiography, From Under My Hat, was published in 1952. Also, The Whole Truth and Nothing But was published in 1962.
Okay, that bitch right there. Okay. Fuck off, Hedda. Yep. I cannot.
This is why people are upset about quote unquote woke culture, which is quote unquote for black, or like it's like code word for black or liberal. It really is what it is.
Yeah.
Because people like that haven't had any pushback. But because of places like social media where people could film you being awful in the moment.
Yep.
Or put you on blast and you get consequences for your actions, they're mad about quote unquote woke politics.
Yep. But like, if you weren't an asshole, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yep.
So you know.
So she went on to write, she produced, and right into the day she died, producing 6 daily columns and a Sunday column for the Chicago Tribune syndicate that became syndicated, as well as writing numerous articles for celebrity magazines. By the mid 60s, though, her readership had waned.
Good.
And on February 1st, 1966, Hedda Hopper died of double pneumonia at the age of 80 at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Hollywood. Okay. She's buried at the Rose Hill Cemetery in Altoona, Pennsylvania. For her contribution to the motion picture industry, she has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Now, to put her life in like a final, like, quote, the actress Merle Oberon once asked Hedda, what inspired all the vicious things you've been writing about me, end quote. Hedda replied, quote, bitchery, dear, sheer bitchery, end quote. So.
Damn.
Now, one final note, I'm just going to say, so Hedda obviously is a Hollywood institution. She has a Hollywood a star on the Walk of Fame. She has actually been played by numerous women in television and film. In 1985, Jane Alexander received a Primetime Emmy Award nomination for portraying Hedda in the television film Malice in Wonderland opposite Elizabeth Taylor. Okay. Elizabeth Taylor plays Luella Parsons.
Oh, I would enjoy
saying
this film.
about their rivalry. In 1999, Rue McClanahan, the famous Blanche, from the Golden Girls, played a character called Priscilla Tremaine, of a thinly veiled version of Hedda Hopper on the AMC film The Lot, a comedic limited series show about the golden age of Hollywood. In 1999, Fiona Shaw played in the movie RKO 281, played her. Helen Mirren played her in Trumbo, the film by Jay Roach. And then in 2016, Tilda Swinton played, and I love this movie, Hell Caesar. I'm a big Coen Brothers fan. She played a version of this, she played this character called Thora and another character called Thessaly, who were twin sisters who were gossip columnists who hated each other.
Oh my God.
So she kind of played both Hedda and Luella. And they both, when you watch the movie, they both, like, one has these really weird hats and the other, it's really well done.
It was very
Tilda
much an
Swinton
homage,
is the
it
best.
sounds like.
She's
so good.
And then in 2017, the first season of Feud, she was played by the great Judy Davis, who nailed her. I think when I think of Hedda Hopper, I think of the Judy Davis performance in the Ryan Murphy show Feud. That was about the rivalry between Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, and Judy Davis played Hedda Hopper in that. And so, but in my mind, I always think of, when I think of Hedda Hopper now, I think of Judy Davis.
Okay.
She played her so well. So that is my Notorious Women, Hedda Hopper. Like,
wow.
A troll who never got her comeuppance and who made a lot of money.
Damn.
Sometimes evil pays.
I mean, it's so sad, but it's so true. This girl, like, she did not ever feel an ounce of sadness for any. I mean,
I think she may have, like, on a personal level, but not. She was unrepentant. She was an unrepentant troll. Like,
I mean, she may have been someone who just felt like she had to do what she had to do, but like, you know, some bitches are bitches, you know, like,
I mean, the mental gymnastics of you always make sense. You always make excuses for what you do, right? Like, no one thinks they're a bad person.
But that's true. But I have to say, like, because there's a lot in this might be controversial, but like in feminism, where it's like, if women rule the world, like, girl boss, like, okay, like, we would do it better. Listen, we're all people, okay?
Yeah.
It's not about that. We want to give women the opportunity to do all the things. Yeah. Sometimes that means they're going to be assholes, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I admired her for being a career woman.
Yes.
At a time where, you know, both her and Luella, like, you know, they were very powerful. And that's why, you know, the whole even thing, gossip columnist, it has that sort of connotation. And I think because society resented these women for having this kind of power.
I think,
but the way she wielded her power is the problem.
And Luella seemingly did it without being a horrific, horrible human. And I think, you know,
and I think
uplifting
Luella,
the HUAC committee, you know, like,
right.
Come on, like you lost me at HUAC, you know.
She lost me at that, like that, and then like, because even the racist stuff, people say I'm too forgiving, but I'm like, she's of that time that, you know, she's that. When she's saying that to Sidney Poitier, you think, oh, it's harmless, right? But then it's the HUAC stuff that you're like, oh no, this bitch is evil. Like,
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Like, I wouldn't say that it's harmless. I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, it's still harmful, right?
It's sort of like, well, that's how she grew up, you know. And listen, and I give people grace on that. Like, if someone use the right verbiage with me, and they like, once this lady use the word colored, and this was like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, colored? We're in 1955. Like, she didn't mean it as like a slur, but I was like, who says color? And this was not a really young woman, but not an old lady. And so, like, if an older person used that term, I'd be like, oh, because when they were coming up, that term was used until they were like 30, right? Like,
yes. But
like, and in their mind, colored is not a slur. And that, like, somebody called me colored and they're like, I don't know, under 40. I'd be like, that's a slur. Like, what? No. Like, cause you know better. But it's the HUAC stuff, the stuff that, like, you know, she thought of herself, even with, like, you know, again, with Charlie Chaplin, I can understand her being like, that motherfucker there with these young girls, I'm going to have to stop this. But she wasn't upset with him for the young girls stuff. I think she was upset with him more that he wasn't an American too.
Yep. That wasn't her problem. And she didn't bring that up. That was not what she took issue with. I would give her some credit if she did.
That was his Achilles heel. I can't give her any credit.
Yeah.
That was her way to take him down, because it did work. She was able to take him down for that. But she was upset at him for other reasons. It's the America first kind of thing that's like this patriotism. It's like, we're all in America. We don't have to walk around with American flags on our hats, on our shirts, on our I
make fun of that a lot when I go around town, and I'm like, did you forget where you lived? Is that why your flag is on your truck? Because I can just tell you where we are.
When you see people in their bio, you're like, oh God, like, I get it. Like, it's like, I mean, so anyway, I mean, she's problematic as fuck. And like, the thing is that she never got her comeuppance really, though. She got away with it. And like not one thing, not one lawsuit, not one being told off. No. Not once. Living her best troll life in Beverly Hills. I'm just saying, like, I mean, anyway, that wraps up another episode of Notorious Women. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We sure did, right?
Yeah, we did. Oh yeah. I mean, I love it. I love it. You do too.
Yes. And guys, remember to give us a 5-star review wherever on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or wherever you get this podcast. You can find us in the iTunes store and wherever you get your podcast. And then Miriam will tell you how another way to.
I will. And also, when you give us those 5 stars, thank you so much. Can you like write a little blurb and be like, hey, that's so cool. They're my favorite people. Okay. What? All right. I was ready, and now I'm not. All right. Our Gmail is... hold on. So I have this thing here that tells me what it is. Here's the thing. Like, you should know your Gmail, right? I should. But my brain does not always work. It just doesn't. Maybe that's relatable. Maybe it's not. But
I'm laughing at you because it's very relatable.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Makes me feel better. I found it. Okay. Our Gmail is notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. Also, our Instagram is Notorious Women Podcast. Please come to there. Follow us.
like everything we post.
Like are the things.
Yeah. And I also want to reiterate, share this with your, download us, but share this also with your friends, family, and loved ones. And to make it easier, even for your friends, copy the link and send it to them. Text it to them. WhatsApp them.
Do you know how Lavetta knows this? Because early back in the day when I couldn't figure out how to find a podcast, that's what she did for me. I'll just tell you. I'll just share. Because that's what happened. And that's why she knows that that's the best way. Because Miriam was like, I don't know what to put. It was sad, but it was true.
No, I'm saying because people are busy. And so sometimes you'll tell them a podcast and then they'll be like, oh, that sounds great. But then they'll forget the name of the podcast when they have time. So just send it to them so they can just click it.
Thank you for excusing that.
Rub it, flip it, rub it down. Oh no! We don't mind if you flip it, rub our podcast down. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Rock out.
In your own home, do it.
Yeah, that's right. We support everyone. Okay.
No kink shaming here. Do you, baby.
Rock it out. Okay.
All right, guys, that wraps it up, and we will see you next week.
Yes, we will.
Bye-bye.